Hello and welcome to the Faz and Lowgy channel. Today, it's the very first official episode of my new series here in Skysaga where I'm going to be building a city. Now I did a prologue to this series that just has me building this simple basic layout of this arrival area that you can see in front of you. I didn't do too much, I basically just put in a floor and a very few decorative areas and a warehouse where I could move in my stuff. But now, we're actually going to be starting the build. We're going to be starting adding in things that are going to be contributing towards the final end project. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight in and build. So ever since I built this arrival area, I've wanted to raise up this semicircle at the front. I wanted to raise it up by just two layers of blocks and have, a slightly raised area because this area is going to be the main viewing platform for that huge city sprawled out in front of you. Whilst I'm not going to be adding all the details, I will say that I am going to be adding more details than I did in my previous series. Because of the size of the city, I'm going to be adding details to each individual area as we go, so you will see me put in some details. Now this is not all the final details, but it's going to be the main important structural details, I guess. I've come to the edges of this arrival area and I've come to these flat grey walls and I've decided to make them far more interesting. So we're going to be bordering them with wood. This is normal wood, not dark wood, and we're going to be digging in one layer with the grey and then using these wooden beams to emphasise structure. On the top of the platform here, I've decided to create a small area where there's going to be some stalls or some shops. When you arrive in the city, there's going to be people trying to sell you stuff. I copy the bordering pattern with the wood and the fences over here, and then once the whole area is done, you can see all those edges now bordered with wood. Now we come back to this semicircle viewing point and I raise up these two columns and I put in the fence panels. After adding a little bit of detail to those columns, I come to the ground and I want to put in some white blocks just to give a little pattern on the ground to lead you towards that viewing area. This area was looking a bit bland, so it needed something on the ground to keep it interesting. I may go in and add even more details to that, maybe a funky pattern like on the landing pad. Then I come and build this lovely wooden archway, and in the archway I put two hanging lanterns, just for some nice decoration. This isn't the finished archway, but it's a good idea of the structure for now. I come back and I try and detail these stall shop areas, but in the end I decide not to do too much with them and just to sort of put a white box around them. Then it's time to come and build some actual buildings. So we're going to start on some buildings. For this episode, I definitely wanted to get a few buildings built to make sure that we got some good progress so that we started to look like a city. So as you can see, I built this small little house and I chipped in a door and a window and I bordered the corners with some wood. And then next to it, I started to build this grey stone staircase. I actually put grey stone on top of the building as a flat platform. You're going to see that that's going to become part of the city's pathways. People are going to be able to walk on top of this building. Not great for the people who live there. I built this giant orange building with a slight overhang at the front, and then I chipped in all the windows and a space for a door. And then I came to the back here, where I'd raised up this platform, and now we're going to build buildings on here. So this is what I'm trying to get at when I said in my prologue that I was going to have stepped housing. I want these houses to stagger in height as you go backwards. So as you can see, the red house that I'm starting to build there, that's on a level one higher than the houses at the front. and each level will get a little bit higher than the next. They're all not going to be the same, so one level might not be the same height onwards as the next level, the steps might be uneven, but everything is going to increase in height as it goes backwards. It's going to make the build look really imposing. You're going to have all these buildings going up and back. It's going to look really messy and it's going to look really detailed, and that's exactly what I want. So now that we've added in some roofs and some details to the front of those buildings, it was time to add in another stairway. This is going to represent the place where you'd go up to the next level. Now there are going to be multiple stairways along each sort of stepped area, but for now I'm just putting in these two to demonstrate. This area to the left, it needed a building. It was a large area and I wanted to put a slightly larger building in there, so we're going to go in with some orange stone. I'm going to build this L-shaped building. I zip over to the building on the right to do a little bit of roof work. This building's a little bit larger than the other buildings, and I'm mixing up the colours, so this building isn't just all one colour, it's going to be a mix of orange and brown. The buildings in this city are going to vary. You know, every building will hopefully be unique. I doubt I'm going to be using buildings over and over again. I did try and give this house a bit of a higgledy-piggledy vibe. I want to be getting my buildings to be even more mismatched, but for now you can see that bits overhang, bits stick out. I don't want it to be very neat. In this clip, I toyed around with the idea of putting some canopies over this area, but in a way I thought it detracted from the buildings behind it, and I didn't want to detract from those because I quite like them and where they're going. So in the end we actually got rid of this canopy area, but we left the fences in. Now I'm giving you a side view to show you how I worked on the roofs, because you know, in those first couple of clips I was kind of just making the fronts of the buildings to give you an idea of what was going to go there, but now we've got to put the walls on the buildings and add the roofs. I toyed around with the idea of these chimney decorations, but for now I think I'm going to leave them off for a while. They give a really industrial look that I wasn't intending just yet. We'll see how it goes for the end of the build, but for now I take the chimneys back off again. This is me just detailing around some bits. Like I said, I'm going to be adding some details as we go in this build, because I just feel like it would be too monumentous a task to try and go in at the end and add every detail. So if I just work week by week on the details, that will help me in the long run. I added some lamps, I added the doors, I added the windows. The windows have a blue tint. I thought the cyan just bounces really nicely off these warm colours that I've been using. And here we go. Here's a look at the city at night, or at least the part of the city that we've built in this episode. But it's looking pretty cool. I've got distinct different buildings in a small clustered area, and I think that if we continue to build like this throughout the rest of the build, we're going to hopefully end up with a really cool looking city. There's a lot of places to explore, even in just the part that I've built already, but you know, we're going to be going around and we're going to be detailing all of the interiors of the building at some point in the future. In next week's episode, we're just going to be continuing with the stepped housing area, but we're probably going to start the other side as well, get things really going with this build. Obviously, as Alpha 10 progresses, the amount of resources I'll have will grow, and I'll just be able to do more and more each week. I hope you like what you see, and if you do, please hit that like and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Hopefully, I'll see you next week for next week's episode. Thanks very much, and goodbye.
Pheasant